Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the SempreMilan podcast. I'm your host, Ollie Fisher, joined once again by Anthony Torgrud.
What's up, everyone? Glad to be back. Here we go.
Here we go, indeed. USA Tour has begun. Land of the free, home of the brave, and a home of not 3 points, but 3 goals and a win against Man City. So we got that to talk about. That was a lot of fun, rather unexpectedly. Of course, we got a game to preview in this one as well, the Real Madrid game in midweek, and some transfer movement, some listener questions. So it's going to be action-packed. Feels like everything is now starting to accelerate towards the new season. But before we dive into everything in this week's episode, thank you to everybody who is a Substack founding member. That's Des Windsor McGlynn, Ali Tareen, Tito, Matt Moritz Pullman, Joey Gawler, Kemin, MJ, Mats, Luke Villano, Raul Escobar, Rajat, Carlo Fassi, Nasser, Merlin Flinker, Derek Favretto, Heavenly 13, Mike Schulz, JT Physio, and Tarek. Nice long list there. It's taken me a bit longer each time to get through it. If you want to see me suffer, then sign up. That's what it's all about. Maybe we can get to 25 names before the start of the season. That would be fantastic. But we really appreciate everybody who has shown support over there. In the last week, over on the Substack, little teaser of what you can get, and you can try a week for free. So if you like what you hear, then go give it a go. The most recent thing we had out was a Mercato reliability guide. Isaac came to me and said, should we do a reliability tiering list, for all the sources that cover Milan? And I said, I think that's going to be really difficult. And then he brought it to me, and I thought he did a really good job. There's some comments from each of us in there about why we think certain ones are good and certain ones are bad. So if you're wondering who to believe this summer, then go and give that a read. We have also had the newsletter, which has a bit of a preview of the USA Tour and also a bulletin of the most important 5 or 6 stories from the past week if you can't keep up to date with everything on the site. Each day. The last bonus podcast that we did was called The Land of Opportunity, and it was about the players who are basically fighting for a spot in the squad in this USA Tour, the games against Man City, Real Madrid and Barcelona. Basically fringe players and some younger players who have a point to prove, and we're going to mention some of them in the games that we cover here. And there was also a bonus article about the Giancarlo Simic situation. Obviously, he left for Anderlecht. There was a lot of anger about it, and it was just offering perhaps the other side of it, how Milan were left with a player who had a year left on his deal, and he wanted regular first-team football in the top division, something we couldn't guarantee. It just goes into all of the reasons why, I guess, there was a breakup between the two parties. Okay, let's dive in, brother.
All right, what first?
Man City review. So, this is why you should listen to the podcast. I'm going to make an admission here. I went out on Saturday. It was my day off. I am back up north for the first time in 3 months. I went and met a load of friends. We had a few beers in the evening, and the game was kicking off at 11 p.m. UK time. I managed to make it through until halftime, absolutely fine. I set my alarm, so I'd be back up, just a little 15-minute power nap.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah. And then what happened was, in the second half, I essentially just kept dozing off. But you've got to remember, because it was a late kickoff as well, it's past midnight, a little bit in the system. And so, yeah, my memory of the second half is a little bit foggy, as the live tweeting probably shows, because I was on that and it kind of fell apart a little bit. So props to Isaac for manning the fort on that. It will be better for the next 2 games, I promise. It was just unfortunate circumstance. But yeah, it was a 5-goal thriller. It was actually a really good game for a pre-season game. It felt like both teams just kind of dropped the gloves and said, look, we want to find something out about our players. Let's not defend, that most importantly, and let's just give the crowd a bit of a show. And they did. And it was weirdly the Colombo and Nasty show. I didn't see those two being the match winners for us.
No. I can't tell you how many times I saw substitutes line up and say, who the fuck is that? Like, I don't know who this one is. I think if you were a neutral or a casual watching this, you probably, as far as goal scorers would go, you only knew Holland. So McAtee for City got the equalizer the second half. But, I mean, yeah, I think we all went into it kind of assuming if City were to play there, their starters, it'd be a wrap real quick,
Mm.
But they were coming off a 3-4 defeat to Celtic. Did about the same with the couple big names, a bunch of youth academy players, and we did the same. And I put a cheeky tweet about how this is probably the worst lineup you could make if you wanted to make one. I got some hate, guys. It's a joke. Chill out. Like, I'm allowed to make funnies at the expense of the club. It's okay. I did think we were going to lose, though. Like, I'm not going to
Yeah, me
pretend like
too.
this was a surprise, or
Yeah.
wasn't a surprise. But yeah, Holland scored early. I think like the 20th minute against the run of play, we were significantly better. I mean, one-touch football, forward moving the entire time. Florenzi was in the midfield, and I liked it. I thought he looked good there. Of course, RIP to him.
He's finito again.
Yeah,
Absolutely
there goes
finito.
his season.
He's now had two knee injuries with us already, and this will be his third surgery since he's been with us.
Yeah, I was going to say 2 in each knee, right?
Yeah.
Not with us, but just overall 2 in each knee. But yeah, so Holland scored early on, even though we were a much better team. And then 10 minutes later, Chukwueze just makes a great run, beats his man, lobs the ball perfectly. Lilo Colombo, he just reads the play, knows where to be, perfect striker instinct, heads the ball right at Ederson, to be fair. It was a good shot in terms of technique and power. It was a bad shot in terms of it was right at the fucking keeper, and that's the only place you don't want to shoot it. But Ederson couldn't do it. It went through his hands. Goal. Incredible moment. Everyone's hyped. 4 minutes later, Chukwueze, incredible run up the side, beats his man. Perfect ball over. Lolo Colombo, great striker instinct, knows exactly where to be. Perfect shot. Great technique. Right at the keeper again. Ederson spills it. Goal.
They all count, man. They all count. It was a nutmeg. The second one, in fairness, was a nutmeg with the volley. Yeah. So 5-hole if you like ice hockey. But yeah, that was good to see. Like, it's kind of weird, isn't it? Because he's going. So like scored. Imagine scoring a brace against Man City, then you've got to go and train with Empoli. Like, no offense to Empoli, but it's mad how that can work.
And he's gone already, right? He already flew back.
Yeah, he's left, and so is Daniel Maldini, who is going to Monza. So best of luck to them two, obviously, and I think it's the right moves for them. The Maldini thing's a little bit weird because we're not actually getting any transfer fee. We're just going to get a 50% resale clause.
I thought it was like 3 mil.
No, apparently not. Apparently there is no fee, or it's a very, very minimal fee. He's got 1 year left on his deal, and I don't think we're that keen on renewing him. So there was no option to like loan him out, and because it would take him to the end of his contract. But I don't know. I get sometimes maybe you can be too friendly with a club, like you see Inter asking for like 20 mil plus for this Carboni guy, and we're here like giving Daniel Maldini to Monza effectively. Yeah. Who knows? He could be sold on, and we might make something off of him. We might actually have some kind of preferable thing with a buyback or whatever. I know Lorenzo Colombo does have a buyback. I
thought Colombo's was just a loan.
A loan with option and a buyback. So make of that what you will. If he explodes, then we buy him back. And if he doesn't do well, then Empoli don't buy him. It doesn't feel like him staying at Empoli is an option on the table there. But who knows what the options fixed at as well. Probably a few million. Yeah. Both of them were mentioned as potential counterparts in other negotiations, like the Samardzic one. But now that's off the table, I guess. So, yeah, good luck to them both. Obviously, I don't think there's a spot for them here, and Fonseca clearly agrees with that. But, yeah, Colombo got his brace. What a way to say goodbye. What I will say is, obviously, he's, I guess, a man of the match candidate for scoring twice. But Chukwueze, with those 2 assists, did really well. I think we're going to see him flourish under Fonseca because people are realizing that he actually has the technical ability to match his pace. And I think he's going to be a real weapon for us. Last season, I think he was trying too hard to make an impression. He was perhaps going for the shots when he shouldn't have done. But so far this preseason, I think particularly in the City game, the Rapid one, he was a bit rusty, but he looked good on that right side. Loftus-Cheek, I thought, looked pretty sharp. Still had a couple of frustrating moments, but he looked
Mhm.
like physically very ready.
Yeah, he looked a lot better. Probably because he wasn't an attacking midfielder. He was box to box as he had been at Chelsea and should have been with us, and was for the opening 4 games of the season where he looked great. And then he was switched inexplicably, but yeah, he looked decent. Um, that's all I really have
Mm.
on Loftus Cheek. I was happy with him.
And then
Let's see what else.
Marcus.
Fucking yeah,
What's going on with
killed
him,
it.
by the way? What is going on with him?
I don't understand it because he started on the left, and then we subbed off Chukwueze for like Jimenez.
Kalulu. Kalulu.
Oh, for Kalulu, and then
Yeah.
but Jimenez came
Musa.
on at the same time, and then played left wing for whatever
Mm-hmm.
reason, and then Sally went to the right, and then Terracciano he played the full 90, or did he get subbed off late?
No, he played the full 90 and he played it all.
Dog shit, horrible. That guy,
Yeah,
I don't understand it. I don't understand. What do the coaches see in him? The management, why is he here? It doesn't add up to me.
I would be starting Jimenez. I agree with that. But it's probably lack of other options. And also, I don't think that was the plan for him to play full 90. It's because Florenzi's injury. That kind of messed up the substitution plans, I think, a little bit.
Yeah, but I mean, what else would you have done? I mean, it's not like, did we have limited subs in this?
No, we used 9 of them according to this app that I'm looking at here.
Yeah.
So here are the players that came on. You've got Pobega coming on for Florenzi to fill that gap
Mhm.
in midfield.
Yeah, fair.
Chow on for Tomori in the 63rd minute.
Mhm.
Also at that time was Nasty on for Benacer, Liberali on for Gabia, Kalulu on for Chukwueze, Jimenez on for Colombo. So quite a few changes there, 5. And then for the final 10 minutes, Pulisic came on for Salamanca's, Bakune for Calabria, and Musa for Loftus-Cheek. That was mainly just to get Pulisic and Musa a bit of warmed
Get him in there.
up legs,
Yeah.
basically. So yeah, we used 9 subs. They used 8, to be fair. They brought on Gvardiol, Calvin Phillips, Mika Hamilton, who's really highly rated. They actually started the game with Grealish, Haaland, and Oscar Bob. That's not a bad front three. It won't be a million miles off what they'll use in some games, like cup games this season. Oscar Bob violated us on a couple of occasions, to be honest, as well.
I don't like him.
You don't like his hair, I feel
I don't like his name.
Bob.
It's
It's
just
got 2
dumb.
B's, though.
Yeah, it's even more dumb. I don't like it. Oscar Bob. I'm just like, bro,
Oh,
change
do you
it.
know what it is? It's people with 2 first names.
Yeah.
It could be Bob Oscar if you flipped it round. And then Edison and Rico Lewis were the other ones who you would say are first team. I know McAtee is very highly spoken of as well, but yeah, it was a bit of a mixed team for them too.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't. The one thing I was surprised is when Scott Carson came on, we didn't have a single shot, and I thought for
Looks like
sure, okay, we could
38.
get one more, Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was kind of interesting, but yeah,
Mm.
overall, I mean, hard to not be happy with the performance.
Yeah, and I think there was far more positives than negatives. I think the
Mhm.
biggest positive for me was how we played in that second half. When given the amount of changes that we made and some of the players that we brought on, let's be honest, who were young, we played well. We definitely competed. They brought some younger lads on as well. It was a bit of a mixed team throughout the game for both. But that third goal, the one that Nasty scored, was a
It was
33
nasty.
pass move,
Yeah.
and like it was. I think that's where you can isolate 60 seconds of a game and say, okay, Fonseca's definitely doing something. We might not see it for most of the game yet, but the confidence with which we played out of the press there,
Yeah.
you could say City weren't going hell for leather, whatever, but Torriani getting on the ball plenty, a 19-year-old keeper that not many had thought of, that not many had heard of prior to this tour, passing it around the back, midfielders dropping in, just moving the ball smartly, finding the gaps. And then when the time was right to spring, Salamakers goes away, cuts it back. And it was a nice finish, actually, a nice first time finish.
Yeah.
That was a beautiful goal.
It was fantastic. I was shocked. You said 33 touches. The crazy thing about it is, that it was so much one touch, and a lot of it was just kind of smart play back and forth. That once we actually started moving forward, it was only like maybe 3 or 4, maybe 5, which is a good thing. It just shows what, like you said, like what Fonseca is doing. The fact that most of the people on the pitch at the time were youth players or guys who hadn't trained a whole lot, and they were able to pick up on how to do that. Something that Pioli wasn't able to implement, and in 5 or 6 seasons, or whatever it was. Let the starters pick up on this, and I think we're going to be in a very good spot.
Yeah, because in theory they should be able to execute it better. But
Exactly.
you know that I tweeted a clip and it absolutely exploded. It was a clip of the goal and the 33 touches on Kilpin. I wasn't expecting it. It's got 794 likes at the moment, but there were people replying like, "Oh, it was against Man City C team," and like it was our first team. You know,
Yeah, exactly.
can't we just enjoy a pretty goal? We didn't have. Apparently, someone replied, and I think that I remember reading this stat, but don't take it as gospel. Apparently, we didn't have a single goal last season with over 10 passes in the build-up.
I
I mean,
believe
that
it.
is frightening, really.
Yeah.
We saw what peak Pioli ball was like post-lockdown, you know, when we were coast to
Mhm.
coast, tearing teams apart with quick passing. That's also fun to watch, don't get me wrong. It's probably like Klopp's Liverpool in their peak and stuff. But just watching us look confident on the ball was weird to me.
Yeah.
And looking like we had the technical players to be able to carry out instructions. I think a lot of it's confidence. I think a lot of it's new ideas and probably a bit of added motivation with it being pre-season to show that they can fit what he's trying to do. But it worked, and like we scored a goal from it.
Mhm.
So more of the same, please. If we do that
Yeah.
to Real Madrid, I'll be very happy.
Yeah.
What else? Oh yeah, we'll just end the recap on I guess a couple of negatives. We mentioned Florenzi injured. Sportiello missed the game because he fell over in the hotel and impaled his hand. So that's something. He's out for potentially 3 months now. And we're going to sign a new keeper by the sounds of it. I don't necessarily agree with that. I think if he's going to be out for 2 to 3 months, we probably shouldn't need him in that first 2 to 3 months. But what is the point of having all of these 19 to 21-year-old goalkeepers if they're not ready for an emergency situation? You know, we might,
Well,
if they don't trust them, why don't we just get rid of them? You know,
the part that confuses me is like either last season, the season before. I think it was the season before last. Mignon was out for November, December, and then there was a January transfer window where we knew he was out, and we knew he was going to be out for an additional 2 months after that, and we didn't sign anyone. We were just okay with Terracciano, and now he's like, he's going to be out. Our backup's going to be out for 2 months. Better get a new one. Like, it's strange. It doesn't make sense to me. Don't get me wrong. I'd be fine with it. Scouffet, I like. I think he's a decent keeper.
Mm.
You know, I think he's still young enough. Could be. I don't know how
Well,
old he
he's
is now.
28. Yeah,
28 now.
I was surprised that he's because I thought, well, Cagliari will not sell him to us because he started 31 games for them last season. Like he was
Yeah.
their first choice keeper from pretty much like September onwards, and yet they're apparently willing to let him go for 3 mil because they're signing Silvestri from Udinese. I just don't see the point. Like, what are we doing? Spending 3 million on a keeper who, in theory, will become third choice from October if
Yeah.
Sportiello comes back then. Surely you can just platoon one of the kids. Like we've seen Torriani look really confident with the
Yeah, he
ball at
looks
his
good.
feet, and he made an amazing save against Rapid Vienna, low down to his left. He's meant to be a very good shot stopper. But then you've got Noah Rivera, who we pushed really hard to sign from St Etienne. We've got Lapo Nava, who actually has a few senior minutes. They didn't go great, but whatever. And there's also Longoni in the system, who is a starter for the Italy youth team that he's part of. Like, there's plenty there. I just don't see the pod. I don't think it would send a great message to them, basically. So get well soon, Sportiello. Try not to fall over anymore. That would be good. But yeah, I don't think we should be investing in a keeper. Save the budget for
Yeah.
other roles. And the other negative, I think, was Tomori. Unfortunately, he did not look good. And by not look good, I mean he was absolutely all over the place. And he struggled. He
Yeah,
struggled.
he got rinsed on the Holland goal, I believe it was. Or was it the
Yeah,
second goal?
Bob turned him inside out.
Yeah.
And
Um,
then He just had this thing where he's letting runners behind him as well. I don't know. I don't know what's going on with him. What we've got to hope is that Pavlovic, who will come on to, is someone who can be a steady partner for him, and he doesn't have to take as many risks as what he is doing. However, after a shaky last couple of seasons post the Scudetto season, the same worrying signs are there that like he's in his own head about certain things. But we'll see. Obviously, it's pre-season. Hopefully, he's getting his mistakes out of the way and stuff. Let's move on. Real Madrid. So if I look at the team, this game, by the way, is in Chicago at Soldier Field, which I did a tour of in October, and it's brilliant. A lot of history there, but it's kind of
Tomorrow, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just, well, for me.
Tomorrow for you, yeah. Thursday, early hours for us.
Yeah,
that's
8:30 p.m. kickoff. That's a little late.
Yeah, it's 1:30 a.m. my time, so it's 2, I think, and then I think it's 2:30 a.m.
Unrelated, but Tottenham will take on the K-League All-Stars tomorrow as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they do that normally, don't they? Because I guess of the Son link.
Well, and then they just got that other guy the other day.
Yeah, is that another PR type thing? I don't know. If I look at the starting lineup anyway, I think we can presume that Torriani will stay in goal because of Sportiello's hand hanging off. And I don't see there being many changes, to be honest. Florenzi obviously cannot start. I think that he'll probably start Musa, maybe.
Well,
he's drop a Bega. It depends how much fitness.
So, remember we just sent over Zaroli, Camarda, and who else? There was a third.
Okafor.
And Okafor, yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe it's Zaroli who gets game time. I don't know.
I hope so. But the thing with Zaroli and Kamada is that apparently they've both rejected a vacation. The club said you can go on holiday if you want. You've had a long summer because they were at the... Kamada did the under-17 Euros, scored the most goals, won player of the tournament, Italy won it. He then did the playoffs with the Primavera, and then he's gone and done the under-19 Euros. So he's not had a break, the poor kid. But they said, go on holiday if you want, or come and join the first team. And they've gone and joined the first team. So that's a good sign.
Yeah.
However, given that they only arrived yesterday, I think starting them, especially with the minutes that they've had in their legs over the summer, might be a bold move. Maybe he gets a half Zeroli.
Did Mbappe travel?
That's a good question. No, he can't have done because he'll be on holiday the same time as Teo and Mike, I would have thought.
So this is Madrid's first friendly of preseason. They haven't played a game since the Champions League final.
When does La Liga season start? I don't know.
I feel like it usually starts before.
I'm going to go through the Sport Mole preview starting lineup predicted for Real Madrid. Courtois in goal, Vasquez right back, Vallejo and Rudiger centre backs, Garcia left back, I presume that's Fran Garcia, Ceballos, Paz and Ardegula in midfield, Brahim Diaz, Endrick and Latassa up front. This will be Endrick's. Will this be Endrick's first game?
Yep.
Oh,
yeah.
Fuck. He scored against England at Wembley, and I remember thinking, not another one. Like, please, no, none of these Brazilian regen like Ballon d'Or candidate. So it's still a good lineup. There's pace and there's skill in that team. Obviously, there's Gula, who we tried to sign before he went to Real Madrid. There's Brahim Diaz, who we had before. Courtois, who is a candidate for best goalkeeper in the world when he's not having to have knee surgery. And yeah, we don't get any of our. I mean, Leao's back. Back, but again, only recently rejoined. So the chances of him starting, I think, are pretty slim. Might be a relay involving him and Okafor, whatever. I'd like to see Kalulu maybe start instead of Calabria. Give Liberali more minutes, definitely, to see where he's at. And I guess, Pulisic and Musa's workload will be dialed up. But yeah, that's it really. Tough to predict the lineup, and I think I don't know. I just have a bad feeling about all these games. I think we're scarred from previous friendlies against top teams where we either get battered or we pull off a shock win.
Yeah, that's literally it. These preseason tournaments. I mean, look, they don't mean anything. They're just fun to watch. Just enjoy the show. Hope we win, but probably won't.
Sucks if we don't. No, I don't know how to say this either, but like, because there'll be people who are going to the games in Chicago, and obviously you're going to the one in Baltimore. But like, I feel like there was a bit more pressure to do it in New York because it's Man City, who I think are still regarded as the best team in Europe, despite the fact that Real Madrid won the Champions League. You know, don't hate me for that. It was, you know, Zlatan back against Pep. It was New York, which is Cardinales Arena. It was Yankee Stadium, which of course we now have links with the Yankees. Just felt a bit like this is a showpiece event. Obviously, playing Real Madrid in Chicago is still mega, and it will be a sellout, and people expect a show. But yeah, fingers crossed, eh? Let's do some transfer roundups quickly. If we have to jump. Yeah, there we go. Strahinja Pavlovic. Strahinja. I need to learn the pronunciation for that.
That's good enough.
Yeah. We'll call him Pavlo from now on.
Patty boy.
He's doing his medical today. He arrives from Red Bull Salzburg, 18 million euros plus 2 mil in bonuses. That was always the figure that the major sources said it was going to close around. Going to be a 5-year deal for him. And once he's done his medical, he's going to fly out to the USA. We will save the in-depth analysis on him for the bonus pod, hopefully all done by the end of the week. However, as we've said in the last 2 weeks, we're in favour of this deal.
Yeah. I didn't know he was going to fly to the USA, so he'll be at the Baltimore game, right?
He should be, yeah. He should be. Because, of course, we don't play Barcelona. We have a bit of a break until we play Barca on, I believe, the 6th.
Yeah.
So there's time for him to get out there and learn things. And then, we'll see if he gets minutes in that Barca game. Be too soon for the Real Madrid game.
Yeah.
And then
I would assume he will, though. I mean, if he's flying all the way out there for one game, he's got to get minutes, right?
You would definitely think so. Of course, and I would advise everybody to go and read this on the site, as I would every article, of course. But it was the headline is "Attract Pressure: Fonseca's pressing and one-touch drill analysed." So basically, Milan posted on their official YouTube channel a 7-minute video from training yesterday, and it was all around one drill that he did where they played without nets. But the way you scored a goal was for your team to pass it from one end to the other without losing the ball. Then if you won the ball back as the other team, you had to try and get it to the other end where someone was stood. So basically football without nets, and it was a person who was the goal, the end target. And it was really interesting to watch. Like, we broke it down in the article, but it was all about one-touch positioning, finding space, but also on the other side, pressing intelligently rather than just, running at the person with the ball, blocking passing lanes, that kind of thing. And when you see something like that, you realize how important it is to get players in pre-season, because they can, it feels like basics almost. These players have been taught how to pass the ball quickly again. I say again, that maybe they were trying it before and it wasn't working, but having new signings go out there and having the internationals out there will only increase the effect that the work has, I guess. So I'm in favour of flying him out. Before I was like, what's the point? Just wait for him to come home kind of thing. But now I'm like, get him out there, get him learning Fonseca ball. Yusuf Fofana, incredibly confusing. What the hell's going on here? They either want 35 mil or they might potentially accept 20 mil, Monaco that is, depending on which source you believe. We've had a bid rejected. My own personal opinion on this, and then I'll throw it to you, is that Monaco are basically making up that teams are interested to try and raise the price and try and start an auction in some way. The Man United and Atletico Madrid stuff made very little sense to me because I don't think Atletico need him. And I think Man United are going for Ugarte or Amrabat, or like they don't seem to be that concretely linked. So I think there's a bit of Monaco leaking, a bit of agent leaking. My gut feeling is this still gets done because he's pushing for the move. He's got 11 months on his deal and he's expected to show up for pre-season in 5 days. And I don't think Monaco are going to want him back if he's already said he wants to leave. So I think we see an acceleration here.
Yeah, I think we will as well, especially with Pavlovic being, done tonight. It makes no sense to sleep, so I think they're going to keep pushing on it. And like I said, he wants to do it. Supposedly he's threatened to leave on a free and let his contract terminate, which, you do if you want out, right? That's the next logical step, especially if you only have a year left. And so I think it gets done. They can't hold out for 35 million when he has 11 months on his contract. And the players already said, yeah, I want to leave. This is the move I'm going to make. I'm going whether you sell me or not, I will be leaving, So you kind of are caved, right? Like, we have Monaco by the balls here. They should accept the offer sooner rather than later, I think, because it's either we're not, because we're not going to raise the offer, right? There's other targets out there. We know how we work in the market, that we have a set price. If you don't accept it, we will move to another target. It doesn't matter if Fofana's our first choice. So if we are Fofana's first choice and he's saying, I'm just going to run my contract out, then I'll sign a pre-agreement in January, I would probably believe him, because we'll go back in January for free, um, or Inter will, and just snap
Yeah,
from us. But
definitely into.
yeah, but I mean, it just makes sense. You got to accept it. Look, maybe we offer a little more. Maybe we bump it up to 21, but I don't think it'll be much higher than the 18.
Yeah, Anto Vitiello said in his most recent update that there is the possibility that he could sign with us in 6 months on a free, but effectively we're going to make another new bid and just sort of say, doesn't say final offer, but you sort of get that vibe. Once you're making fifth and sixth bids, it gets a bit tedious. And what I will say, obviously we're Milan fans. We want the player for as cheap as we possibly can, and we know he's a good player, and we know he'd help our team and stuff like that. And we know he's got an expiring contract, and we're hearing that he's asking Monaco to leave, and that he's threatening to do this and that, and not show up to training, whatever it might be. It must be pretty shit from Monaco's point of view, because like they took a punt on this player X amount of years ago, and now in a position where player power has totally taken over, and they're kind of backed into a corner.
Yeah.
We've been there before, is what I'm saying, and we felt really, really angry about it. So I would hope that we are conducting these negotiations with at least a bit of dignity towards them. And if they say they want 25 and we're offering 17, let's shake hands at 21 and everyone's happy. But yeah, those are just kind of serial box numbers. Everyone's reporting different things. But Fabrizio did say that he's already turned down West Ham because he wants Champions League football. That would, in theory, also mean he'd turn down Man United if they came in. But we'll see, because they could offer him a massive salary, of course. What else have we got? Oh, yeah, because of Florenzi's injury, Emerson Royal looks like he's going to be coming in. I am very unenthused about this signing, to be totally honest with you. However, because of Florenzi's injury, I do now think we need a right back. I just wish it was Thiago Santos that we were close to, or an alternative name. I'm just not sold on Emerson Royal, but I do think he'll do better in Serie A. And also statistically, I think he's one of the better defending fullbacks. So what we've seen in the first couple of pre-season games is that what Fonseca normally does in the build-up with the 3-2 is he splits the centre-backs and the midfielder drops between them for the three. However, it's been the right-back tucking in. So it just makes me wonder if he's thinking Emerson Royal would be great for when we're in possession, because he's quite a good passer of the ball. He's just not very good in the final third, basically. So if we can sort of, I don't know, distill what he's good at with the system that we've got, and Moncada's been after him for years since he was at Betis, I'm willing to give it a look, basically. And 15 mil is still pretty low risk for a 25-year-old.
Yeah, I'm not an Emerson Royale fan. I think we've made that clear. But I also trust the process. I know the comments are gonna say, Jerry, Dick Ryder, Ball Licker, whatever you want to call me, but trust him. I don't feel like he's wronged us yet, so trust him. Just see what happens.
And also, haven't we done some really good business buying players in the dip under Moncada? When I say under him, I mean when he was a chief scout too. Our best player last season was Pulisic, and we bought him after a really bad season under a manager that didn't really trust him.
Yeah.
Are we not kind of doing the same here? And just give it a look. That's all I'm saying. Look, if he has 10 really bad games to start his time with us, then yeah, we can look back on it and say what a shit signing. But until then, I think let's see, because Fonseca will clearly greenlight it as well.
I think the big risk, and a lot of why people hate this one so much, is not because they dislike Emerson Royale. They do, but because they dislike Calabria so much. So when they see, okay, we're looking to replace a right back, they're thinking, finally, this guy's gone. We're getting someone new. He's going to be so much better. The boss sees Calabria's not it. And then they see a guy who, over the last few seasons at Spurs, not really performed better than Calabria at Milan. So everyone's kind of like, oh, what the hell? This isn't even an upgrade. This is the same thing. We got it one more year. And I think that's why everyone's hating it. If he was a flashier name, maybe people would be like, okay, cool, we're doing it. But and it's also riskier when you're trying to replace a player with someone who's in a dip. If you're replacing, like we knew that even if Pulisic were to fail, we also were getting Chukwueze at the time who could do well. And before we got rid of Salmakers, we had him who came off a decent season, doing all the performances against Napoli, nothing fancy, but and we brought in Luca Romero. So we're like, okay, we have a lot of options, but at right back, even if we get Emerson Royale, it's still him and Calabria, and I think that leaves a lot of people really worried, and rightly so. But yeah, I think Furlani and Moncada have actually done a pretty decent job since they've taken over, and if this is who they think is the right person, I'm willing to trust them until I have a reason not to. But I feel like they have way more hits than misses so far.
I remember, yeah, they certainly do. I remember when Fonseca was obviously officially appointed, and there was a lot of talk about the fullbacks, and basically every paper and source, whatever, was saying Fonseca will demand having two good attacking fullbacks. And then in his first press conference, he said, no, we need balance from the fullbacks. If Teo goes forward, the other needs to stay back. I agree with him on that, personally. I think we were exposed way too much in transition by players being caught upfield last season, and he's probably seen that. But also, that kind of alters the kind of right back that you're looking for. He maybe sees that Calabria is way too prone to defensive errors, both in positioning and one-on-one. But I'm also then asking questions about Kalulu. Apparently he tried him on the right side, and to me, he seems perfect as the kind of player who could tuck in on the right of a three if needed. But maybe he's not convinced, or maybe he sees him as a centre-back, like a full-time centre-back. So we'll have to wait to see on that. But yeah, look, I guess we support him. Emerson Royal had a good season under Conte, basically, but he was playing mostly as a wing-back. So that's something to bear in mind. But he's coming and he wants to get back in the Brazil team. So when we're signing players that are fired up and want to prove something, that also tends to help us. What else have we got? I think that's about it. On the sales front, you mentioned Calabria there. Moretto said that he's had an offer from Galatasaray who were willing to significantly raise his salary. Obviously, he's out of contract in 11 months, but he's turned them down. And apparently we've had a bid from Al-Shabaab in Saudi Arabia for Yassin Adli, which we're willing to accept, but the player don't want to go there. So it's not always as easy as just offloading players that we don't deem to be good enough anymore. It has to work for everybody involved. So I think that's why there's a little bit of a slowdown on the outgoing front. Malik Chow stuff's come back up. Apparently we're asking for 40 mil, but then his agent came out and said there's no truth in the Newcastle stuff. And Sky Germany said he'd be happy to stay because he quite likes, he loves playing for us and he likes living in Italy. So nothing really on that. Should we do some questions?
Let's do it.
A few written down here. First of all, from Michael Gambino. If Fofana doesn't get done, given Milan's buying patterns, what are the other viable options for midfield? Good one. Asking us to basically just name defensive midfielders here. Okay, so the main... No, you're fine, mate. It's, 6:50 a.m. People should appreciate the dedication. Like Maddie yawning at midday. Manu Kone of Mönchengladbach is the name who's been mentioned as a bit of an alternative target. We wanted him 3 years ago when he was at Toulouse. Moncada tried really hard to sign him, but Mönchengladbach swooped in and offered like a few million more and got him. Familiar story. But he's a different profile to me. He can play in a double pivot, but he's more box to box. So I'm not too sold on that. Who else? I don't know. It looks like that there was a guy who I liked the sound of playing in Brazil called Andre Trindade. He is a proper number 6. Like he led for the calendar year of 2023. He had the most passes and the most tackles, I think, or recoveries of any player in the world, which is a mad stat, like more than Rodri. But it seems like he's going to Fulham to replace João Palhinha, so I'm not sure we can get him. I don't know. Is there any number 6s you like that you think we could get?
Tanner Tessman.
Is he any good?
Probably not.
No, I've seen he's meant to be
I don't
going to
know.
Inter.
Yeah, I just looked up defensive midfielders on Transfermarkt, and that was the first name, and of course American. But I think people would lose their mind if we cited a third American. Um,
I've
who
got one for
was?
you.
Yeah, let's hear it.
Ring up Napoli and say, you want Musa? We'll swap him for Lobotka
Nah,
or Anguissa or one of them.
we were linked with someone who needs a Portuguese passport, right?
Yeah, that was the Souza who plays at Sheffield
Oh yeah,
United. Look, I asked. I've got a mate who's a big Sheffield United fan, and I asked him, and he said there's definitely a player in there, but his attitude is absolutely shocking, and most of the fan base hate him because he basically blamed his teammates on them getting relegated, which might have been true, but you just don't say it. And apparently they've already rejected 35. No, they've already rejected a bid from Fulham for him, and they want 35 mil to sell. The bloke who reported that as well is pretty hit and miss. He covers football league clubs over here, but when he hits, he hits. So I don't know. We'll see on that one, but it seems an interesting profile. It's
could go
tough because
for. Well, maybe we just go back in for Matt Swifer. I know we were talking about him for a
oh
while.
yeah, has he not gone to Brighton?
Oh yeah, he's at Brighton. Yeah,
Yeah,
you're
he
right.
signed for Brighton.
Okay.
If
Ibrahim Sangare.
oh, he was linked with us as well, wasn't
Yeah, and
he?
Nottingham got relegated, right?
No, they stayed up.
They did. Oh wow, okay.
Yeah, I've
I
seen
could
him
see
linked with
him
an
fitting the
Exeter.
mold.
I got one. If
Okay.
Arsenal sign Mikel Merino, would that free up us to sign Jorginho? I know people don't like him. Like they think that he's, I don't know, like an old fashioned player, or he's not very exciting, or he's had his best
Mm.
years or whatever. But I think
Yeah,
he could really come and do a job in Serie A.
he's in Philadelphia right now, so maybe we link up pretty soon here.
Jerry,
Well, no, because we're
Jerry, Jerry.
hopefully. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I'd have to Google like best defensive midfielders in the world, but just
That's what I did. Yeah.
just on that point, because look, some of the top names, like Rodri, Guimaraes, Kimmich, and all them, they're
Yeah.
out of reach for us. Let's face it.
Yeah, of course.
But I also think, generally speaking, there's not an abundance of great number sixes anymore. Like a lot of teams don't actually play with the six. They want three players who are very comfortable on the ball, interchanging and things like that. So that's why perhaps it's a bit harder to find, and we need to figure out what we want, because people would rightly argue that Fofana's not necessarily a pure defensive midfielder either, because he gets forward and scores goals and plays best as an 8. So we need to decide what we want. But I think what Fonseca wants is someone who's competent on the ball and can help in the build-up, but just do the defensive things a bit better than Reinders and whatnot, which is fair.
Ironically, according to Transfer Market, the 2 of the 15 most valuable defensive midfielders are players that we used to have in Tonali and Çalhanoğlu. So,
should we just get Tonali back then?
I mean, I could see that happening. I think he
Yeah.
wants to at least give 1 year at the Newcastle first, but
I really like Morten Hjulmand. We should have signed him when he was here. He went to Sporting and he had a brilliant season with them, and he is an actual defensive midfielder. Chelsea might have some options for us as well, because they've got so many defensive midfielders. Like, I'd ring up and say, we'll give Romeo Lavia like a year rehab stint with us, even if it's a loan or whatever, while we wait for Fofana on a free. I'm just looking better.
25. Boubacar Kamara, that would be a good one. I think we were linked with him in the past as well, weren't we?
Yeah, we have been. I think we've been linked with all the Kamaras.
That's the thing, too, about our management is we go for everyone. It's just a matter of finding the one that'll come at the right price point, so it can be tedious.
Yeah, I've always liked Florentino Luis as well, the guy who was at Monaco and then moved to Benfica and kind of exploded. And Shooten as well, who moved from Bologna to PSV. He looked pretty good in that kind of anchoring midfield role at the Euros. Calvin Phillips, don't want him because he's ex-Leeds, but he's like the kind of opportunity that we would go for. Like, Premier League club doesn't want him, bring him in. He fits us. But yeah, no Leeds, please. Marius asks, and I think this is based off a report that La Gazzetta dello Sport put out. What do you think about moving Pulisic to the 10 position and having Salamak as the deputy to Chukwueze? And then RLC being either deputy to Pulisic or moving him back into the double pivot.
Yeah, it's an interesting idea. I think it worked the one time Pioli tried it last season. I'd be curious to see how it goes this season because Chukwueze looked really good, and I think we're going to see a lot more from